And I'm here with another edition of Things by Bryn. Today I'm with Lisa Patterson, who has a loved one who has been incarcerated for 12 years, still has approximately 10 plus years to go, maybe has a possibility of getting a parole hearing out in 6-7 years, but who knows what's really going to happen. The justice system in this situation has been completely unfair. She has seen inflation on phone calls from the time that he went in to today, from a little over $2 for an hour to speak to him on the phone to now almost $3 for just 15 minutes. So Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about you and your situation and this person that you've been helping support and love through this.
Okay. He was incarcerated in 2010, sentenced for his sentence in 2010, and he was innocent. They offered him a plea. He told them no because he wanted to take it to trial, because if you're innocent, you don't want to admit to something that you didn't do. And he did not take that. He ended up getting a hung jury twice, and then the third time they ended up sentencing him for 25 years.
So when you say a hung jury twice, this prosecutor just kept coming at him.
Yes.
Coming.
There was individuals that worked in the prosecuting office that had told some of his immediate family members that she had a sign posted in her office that said strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out, with his picture on it. She was going after him no matter what.
So he was guilty until proven innocent in this case.
Pretty much, yes.
Never innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, and then during the sentencing, they did use his juvenile record against him, and it put him in a different level to where he got so many years. Over the years, go ahead.
Go ahead. I didn't think they were supposed to be able to use a juvenile record against you.
Oh, they did back in then. I don't know if they could. I don't know if that was a law or whatever then. I don't know much about the law. I'm just now learning a lot about it. But they did use that against him in his sentencing. What was you getting ready to, you already said that.
I was going to ask you, he was a juvenile and he got in trouble, and that's really not supposed to be part of your criminal record because it happened when you were a kid. And I don't really know what the law states on that either. However, when they used that against him, it put him in a higher criminal category, right?
Okay, well, he was, I don't even know, 18 or 19 at the time when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really remember, but he had a prior juvenile record.
Okay. So he got in trouble again right after he became an adult.
Yeah, right after he got out of juvenile detention, he got in trouble. That's when this issue happened.
Okay.
Basically, he kind of fell victim to the streets because he lost his mom at a young age. And when his mom passed away, his sister's dad took them to out of state. And so he actually lost his mom and his sisters. And he never knew his dad. And so, you know, he turned to the streets. And so he's more mature now. He's growing up. He's actually one of the smartest people I've seen. You know, I've learned a lot from him, and I'm older than him, and I've learned a lot from him. He's doing things to better himself. He does a lot of self-improvement. He's taking college classes. And what I was going to tell you on the college classes, he has to have certain books. Some of these books one of them costs like $100. I send the book, it gets lost between the post office and the prison. And so he never received that book.
You're just out that money and then don't have it again to send this book again.
Right. Well, we find a way, but you know, it's really hard to do that. We eventually got the book. But then they tell you to send the books to the teacher of the class. Well, you know, it's not for her, it's for him to learn. You know, they should provide the books if they want to, you know, use them that way. Yeah, but this was something that he purchased.
Prison has fees at everything. Everything you touch is a cost. We were speaking earlier before the interview, and you were talking about phone calls when he first went in were, you know,
I think $2.40 a minute, I think. Not a minute,
an hour?
$2.40 for an hour.
And
And
now
right now
they're over that for 15 minutes.
they're like $2.70 is what we recently paid. I was just listening when we talked, when we last talked, it was $2.70 for the 15 minutes.
That's just crazy.
And yes.
Just
And so
crazy.
it makes it hard on him, to contact his sisters out of state, his aunt, because for the longest he has a job now, but for the longest he didn't have a job. And I can't support him. I have my own stuff doing on this end. I do try to help out when I can, but like I said, it's really a hard thing, a hard situation, and it's just something. It's sad to see somebody go through that. Yes,
Especially
they
for that
know.
much time. It's
Right.
Do they offer any counseling in there? We talked a little bit about no mental health programs, and he was under the impression that anybody that's incarcerated could benefit from mental health programs.
Yes.
Um,
He says like their unit teams are supposed to be their counselors, but they're never available for them. They don't come around and check on them, see them, say, how you doing? Or they don't do any of that. The only time you would see him is if you had to fill out a certain form and you would have to go there to get the form. But other than that, you never see your unit team. They don't ever come around and check on you.
and that's really all you have for support in there is your unit team.
Right.
Talk to me about if somebody gets in trouble in prison, what happens during that
Um,
situation?
we've been talking in previous conversations, and he had told me that when somebody gets in trouble, they allow you to call witnesses, but you only have 48 hours to get your witnesses. If your unit team's not around, you can't get the paperwork to get those witnesses called. And then when you go into the DR hearing, you go in there and the guards lie. They really flat out tell lies. And then when you try to defend yourself or, speak up on your behalf, they tell you that you're, I can't remember the word he used, you're being aggressive, and they kick you out of the hearing. So they continue the hearing without even the offender in the room.
Well, that doesn't seem fair if you can't even attend your own hearing.
Right. And then sometimes they will delay a hearing. It's supposed to be done within 7 days. They'll delay it for another 7 days. And then after that, it's supposed to be dismissed. It doesn't work like that. They can delay it as long as they want. The incarcerated are not guaranteed a timely hearing. But
Now,
if
where
it
they're
was,
in the waiting period, they're still being punished, are they not? Like if they've had to go to
I
the
believe so.
hole or stripped of commissary rights or phone call privileges, just different things that they can take from you while you're on a disciplinary report.
I would assume so, since there's no decision made about it. I'm assuming you are until you go through the hearing.
Mm-hmm.
But once, then, like he also stated, like if the offender needed to postpone it because he needed to work, whatever he had to do, I don't know, or he couldn't get his witnesses, it's not allowed. It's only postponed for the staff.
How convenient. And he's in
Mhm.
El Dorado, Kansas,
Yes.
and he's a juvenile who's been in trouble, then gets out and gets in trouble and was instantly bashed by a prosecutor 3 times to get what he or she wanted.
Right.
Did he ever
I've never seen, I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but I've never seen somebody take it to the level of 3 trials if they've been mistrials the first 2. And that
Do you
really
think
was
he
like,
got punished with more time because he did go to trial?
I believe so, because, they wanted that, I don't know if they wanted it or they needed it for their reputation or whatever. And of course, he didn't have money he had to use a public defender, which that lady, she went through 2 trials. Did she go through all 3? I think she went through all 3 trials with him. And then after he was sentenced, he went through the appeals and went through that. Went all the way to the Supreme, and they denied it every time. It's almost always the same judges in there. And so you're not going to get the same thing, even after.
I was under the impression on an appeal, you got a different judge. Like
I
that's
mean,
not
you
his
do,
case.
but like on the appeals, you have there's so many of them that's in there. There's more than one judge there.
Right.
But that head judge is usually the same one he got every time.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, and then the judge that convicted him, he retired during one of the appeals before we went to the Supreme, as far as the Supreme Court. And they still didn't do, the guy that came in, we was hoping we had a chance with him, but you had that prosecuting attorney still over there.
There's
pushing.
a case here in the Kansas City area, it's federal, it's not state, where a prosecutor listened to phone calls. And there's this big thing. It's been going on since I think approximately 2016, where it was actually started to be litigated. And don't hold me to the dates exactly, but the prosecutor they have found evidence that this has happened, and this prosecutor is still practicing law as a prosecutor in the same office. And that is just, there was no setting her aside. And Tara Moorhead is her name. And anybody who has her, please contact me. Let's do an interview, because they are not held to the same standards that the average Joe Blow is. The JQ public is not held accountable to the same standards that somebody who's in a higher position is. They tend to sweep them under the rug, and anybody who does not have a high society position or elected officials position tends to get swept under the rug. But they don't get swept under the rug. They get handed down a heavy sentence to. But those prosecutors and those judges and those attorneys who have made mistakes, it doesn't seem to matter, and it affects the people that they're incarcerating. There are people who have gotten tens of years over a prosecutor's mistake, and instead of getting to the bottom of it, they will wait and just drag out the hearings, the status conferences, anything, to deal with this case, while that person who has been wronged is still sitting in a prison or in a jail or in a holding facility or in some type of incarcerated unit while they're waiting for this time period, this procrastination to be drug out. And it's messing with their life. And this is also the same prosecutor who was a state prosecutor for the state of Kansas, who sent a guilty man to prison for murder. And 20 some years later, the man gets let free. And this is the same prosecutor. These people need to be brought to justice themselves.
Right.
It sounds like you had a touch of that.
Yes, it is. That's how I feel anyways. I get emotional about it. But I can't even imagine what he's gone through.
Right.
Like he'll get to a point where he won't call for a while because he's trying to deal with that there. Or, like you're already in there dealing with problems. And if I call him and tell him I'm having a problem at work, I just gave him all those problems too. And so it's like, sometimes you just kind of have to, I don't want to say fake your conversations with him, but, I don't want him to worry out here. But at the same time, he's never going to tell me if anything's wrong in there. Because every time I ask him, how are you doing? I'm doing okay. And he always has that positive front on side. I've never seen a more positive person ever. But during the coronavirus, everything caught up with him. He broke down, really got a hold of everything.
Well, it's almost like that with Corona, that they can't have visits. They've been locked down a lot, so they can't have access to the phones or video conferencing, to their email. They don't have as much access that they used to have. So it's almost like they are being punished even more. They went from having their freedom taken away from them to learning how to cope and dealing with the day in and day out of prison, to having even more freedoms taken from them that they had while incarcerated. And now they can't even see their loved ones. And that's really tough, because people want to see their family. It's what gets them through it.
Right. And, like I said, he's got his aunt. She's the one that basically took on the mom role when his mom passed away. She has no access to video. for a little while, somebody had hacked into her phone and she couldn't even take a phone call from him because they had kind of blocked that number that he called from her phone.
And that takes a while to get that straightened out.
Yeah, she's got it straightened out now, but the video, she don't have access to video visits. And there's no way we can do the three-way calling, you know, to her, even to be able to talk to her, you know. And so sometimes, you know, that really gets to him when he can't reach out to the ones closest to him. His sister, single mom, raising two kids. She moved back where her dad's at. So she really can't afford, she actually has three kids now. I forgot she had another one, but she can't really afford phone calls like that or video visits. Luckily for the 3 video visits, they get free. She takes 1 or 2 of those, and I usually take the other one, or one of his other cousins, it's like a sister, takes the other one.
Now, when you say 3 free, that's only because of COVID. That's not normally the case when it's under a regular situation. We don't have.
And I think those are usually $10 a visit. I think for 1 hour, for not 1 hour, for 30 minutes, is what it usually is before that. But you know, it's like we would like to see, you know, I want the visits back, you know, really bad. It's like,
right. Does he talk about racism at all while he's in there?
Yeah, he said that it's mostly there's a majority of Black incarcerated people, and the staff there is got to be over 95% white. He said and the ones that are Black, they're not treated, those staff are not treated fairly. They're made to do all the crappy jobs or whatever. I actually, when I was talking to him, I was taking some notes, and I actually forgot the words that he had used to say that. And when I was talking to him Sunday, we got off on another conversation, so I never got to ask him before this call. So,
it almost sounds like the leadership at that prison is passing down their beliefs to their staff and how they want that staff to act. And if you don't follow the guidelines that they want you to follow, then as a staff member, even if you are doing right and being ethical, you could get punished for not being ethical. I mean, if you're not ethical, you should get punished, but you're getting punished for being ethical is what I'm trying to say. Right. That came out wrong. But yes, and that's very, very unfortunate.
And you know, some people need their jobs, so they're gonna follow suit and do what they have to do to support their families. So it's basically a lose-lose situation.
And what happens if they report these individuals?
We didn't really go into that part of the conversation, so I really don't know. I've heard other people say that their retaliation to where they will find things wrong, write them up, you know, come in and search their cells, different things like that. But he's never really mentioned that to me.
Wow. Well, 10 years is still a long time away.
It is.
Away.
Like I said,
you said he's becoming a better person, so there is a positive side of this. And let's spin this just a little bit. Let's say that he was guilty. Maybe not even for this charge, and he was placed in the prison system. And maybe that was the right thing to do at that time. But now you're saying that he's innocent, which he might be. You know, nobody really knows the truth but him. Is it still not the 25 years? But do you think if he was out, that he would have not had the growth that he's having now?
Honestly, we've talked about that. And if he was not incarcerated at the time that he would probably be dead.
So there is some benefit from it.
Yes, he was going down the wrong path. And, you know, a lot of this stuff he's realized as, you know, as he's getting to know himself, because in there you don't have no way, you know, you either follow the wrong path or you better yourself, you know, and like he's chose to better himself.
Which is very good. It takes a very strong mindset to do that. And that's very positive that he can even admit that. That says a lot. So he was 18, 19. So now he's 28,
He's actually
20,
30.
30.
He's 31 or 32 right
Okay.
now.
Okay. So he's going to be in his 40s when he gets out, possibly, or late 30s. No children.
No children.
So he has a chance of having to be able to start over later in life and could possibly have the things that he might have had when he was younger.
Right.
However, he's going to come out of there a changed man, and that is a plus. And I like to make things known in these interviews that it's not always a bash against the prison systems. It's not always a bash against the guards or the prosecutors. The problem is our lawmakers need to understand all sides of what goes on, because yes, crimes are committed. Yes, people should be punished, but the people who are winning are the prisons, because they get to collect the profits, and the family members are suffering, the prisoners are suffering, and the long prison terms and these mandatory minimums are not contributing to help and rehabilitate these people that are going to come back out into our communities that we're going to sit right next to. And now with everything being online, people know everything about that person. And so there's no privacy anymore. So they are judged, they're criticized, and they are lived down by what they have done for the rest of their life. And, when does that stop? He's done 25 years, he's out, he's done his time. When is the negativity and the stereotyping going to stop? And I
Right.
think that's going to have to be a mindset on the person that's incarcerated to say, I've done my time. I don't have to hang my head in shame anymore. That you can turn that mind, that light switch off in the mind that says no more. I'm going to hold my head up high. I'm going to be a productive member of community and move on. However, our lawmakers and our society prohibits that.
It does. And it's sad because, everybody makes a mistake. Some people just don't get caught.
That's true. And you don't
And then,
know until they've been caught, or they don't ever get caught. You could even have a suspicion, but until they get caught, it doesn't matter.
right. And it's like, so everybody makes their mistakes. It don't mean that they're a bad person. They might have just made a bad decision at that
Right.
time.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And bad decisions happen due to circumstances, situations, mindsets, things. You don't know what's going on in that person's life when those decisions are made. You also don't know how quick that person had to make that decision. And if it meant saving somebody else by you going to prison and making the decision that you made, you just don't understand what's really happened in that individual's life to be judging them for the rest of their life about it. How many teenagers do some stupid things and they don't get caught, or they get caught by their parents and the parents don't discipline them, and so there's no lesson learned there. So unfortunately, some of us, it takes prison to learn that lesson, but others, like you said, don't get caught. And when is enough for that? It's only a crime if you get caught. It's only a crime if you get caught. And for that matter, there is no justice, because the person right next to you was just as guilty. They just got out of the car before you got the cops on you and got caught doing whatever you were doing.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
Yes. Well, don't hang up when we get off of here. I've got something for you. But if you would tell me one thing you would like the public to know about your situation, incarceration, just if there was a piece of advice you could give people, what would it be?
Not to judge people until you get to know that person.
Absolutely.
Seriously, it's just don't judge because you don't know the circumstances behind it. Yeah, I'm labeled as this, but that's not who I am.
Right. And what I've often found is you don't have to be in prison, and you don't have to be guilty of a crime to be labeled. We label
Right.
people, we judge people. It just seems to be harsher for somebody coming out of prison. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the people who we need to help. They are a member of our community, and sometimes they come out of here with absolutely nothing. They have no family, they have no clothes, they have no job, they have no source of income. They may or may not be able to go to a halfway house, so they're put on the streets. And what's the first thing they're going to do if they
Yeah,
have no system of support? They're going to go right back in.
if they don't have a choice, they're forced to
Right.
do it.
Exactly. And it's survival mode at that stage of the game. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that's a choice that they make because it's 0 degrees outside and they don't want to freeze to death. or they haven't had food in 7 days. So they get arrested so they can go back to what they know, especially somebody who's been in for many, many years, which is very, very unfortunate. Well, thank you. I appreciate all of your input. And for those of you watching, if you have any questions about this or any questions concerning El Dorado Correctional Facility, please holler at me and I will see if I can help you out. If you want to be interviewed, let me know. Anything dealing with incarceration, if you want to talk to me about it, give me a call and I'll be happy to visit with you. 913-957-3693.